All right, we should still have our, Chatham database open. Inside there, there's a visits table. If you don't, you launch Access, and inside the most recent files list, you should see this database and you can open it. Now, I don't want you to follow. I want you to sit back and watch for a minute. If you wish, you don't have to start Access first. Here's my Chatham database. I can double click it. And it opens it up, and there's my tables, and all my tables would be there, and all my queries, and all the stuff that I'm going to create is going to be in there. So you don't have to launch Access first, and then launch database. If you can see the database, double click it, launch it. Or do it the way you're comfortable with, as long as you can find it. All right, in the second part of the unit, of the tutorial, they first show you how to copy records from one database to another. In order to demonstrate all the nice features of databases, you need to have lots of records, but that's kind of tedious for students. Imagine typing in a couple of hundred visit records without making mistakes. Pretty tedious. So instead, the book gives you some databases and allows you to copy records from one to the other. So now you're back with me again, please. We're going to open Microsoft Access again. Wait a minute, we already have it open. But I want a second copy. And I just tried this before I started the recording. If you go File, Open, it replaces this database with the other one. I want two copies or two databases at the same time. So I'm going down to my Start button, and I'm going to click Access and start another copy of Access instead of replacing the one that's open. In the book, they have you close it, and then copy, and then move on. You can have more than one database open at the same time. We need to go find another database, not a blank one. We're going to go open Other Files. And you're going to the iDrive, to Bob's folder, and look in Access Tutorial 1. In the Tutorial folder, Unit 1 Tutorial, you should dig around and go ahead and get started, and I'll kind of get you in the same neighborhood. I have to go to my desktop to find it. And you want this tutorial folder. And inside there, you'll find a database called Cindy. I'm going to double click Cindy. Some of you are getting warnings and enabling content. As long as you can see the appointment table, let's double click it to see the table. And I can see down at the bottom of my screen that there are 76 records here. And notice they have the exact same layout as the table that we built. As long as they have the exact same layout, we can copy them. I want to copy them all. To do that, once again, click this little gray box in the upper left-hand corner of your grid, and that selects them all. It also includes the click to add column, but Access knows better. It's not going to give you that. Then you can right-click in the middle of here someplace and choose Copy. You just copied all of those records to the clipboard. Same clipboard that we used in Microsoft Excel, you used in Microsoft Word. Same clipboard. It's now storing this data. What I recommend you do is now minimize, and I'm going all the way up, this copy of Access. The one right next to the close button at the top, not this one. Minimize button to park it out of the way. And then open, you should see your visits table. If not, it's probably down on your taskbar. Double click Visits. Everybody back to Visits, be right with you. Part to copying records like this is you can't just paste. And unlike Excel, you can't click in this first cell and paste and expect it to expand. What you have to do is click the star, the entire brand new row, and then paste. And you should get all 76 records. Are you sure that's what you want? Yes, that's what I want. And now you've got the 75 that started and the few that we typed, and now we're up to 79 records. So in Unit 1, you'll do that a couple of times so that you don't have to spend a lot of time typing 80 records, because that gets tedious. I mean, it was bad. I didn't even want you to type the ones that were in the book, and there was less than 10. So that'll save you a lot of time. But remember, keep both databases open. Now that that's done, I can come down here and find Cindy. There's Cindy. And I say, thank you, I got all those records. I can close Cindy and keep my visits database. It wants to know, do you want to keep that large information on the database? No, I already pasted it. I don't need it. It's already in the other database. So I'm going to say no. The book example has you say yes, and then you close Cindy, and then you open visits, and then you paste. Why not keep them both open at the same time? It's a little quicker, and you don't get that annoying question about, I got lots of records, you want me to keep those? All right, let's resize the reason column. I think the other columns are going to be okay, but notice I've got a record here that's getting chopped off. So I'm going to point to the right edge of reason, double click, and now that fits. And as I scroll through, now I want to scroll through my records and see if there's any others that are even longer. That one looks like it's getting a little close to the edge, so just in case. No, it didn't change anything. So in this case, we happen to be lucky, but you have to scroll all the way through. And if you find something that's bigger, particularly if it's chopped off, resize again to make sure everything fits. Most of these, why is this one so wide? Because they want the column heading to fit. They want the column headings to fit, and they want the data to fit. If you resize automatically just by double clicking up here, you can do that. You can also resize by dragging, but double clicking is easier. Let's close the table, not access the table. Remember, that's this button up here. Close the visits table. Do you want to save the changes to the layout? What'd I do? Resize the column again. Yes? And now if you reopen visits one more time, I didn't point this out, I should have, but when you reopen the table, it automatically resorts them. And they are resorted by primary key. Whenever you open in Datasheet View, you're automatically resorted. Remember the star? Where'd it go? Well, it's way down at the bottom, 79th record, but here's another star, right there, kind of hard to see. Probably see it better on yours. It's a little arrow with a star, and that will take you right down to that place, and you can start typing new records, so you don't have to scroll for half an hour to get there. Okay. The last thing we're going to do is create queries, forms, and reports. Remember that a database management system not only stores all your tables, and right now we only have one, but it also can store queries, and you can save the queries. If it's a question you ask every so often, like, how many customers did I see this month? And what were their ailments? Well, I'd probably ask that every month. You can save it, and then next month you just double click it and it gives you the answer. The next month you double click it and it gives you the answer. To create these, we go to the Create tab on the ribbon. And remember, all of these are going to be stored in this database. We'll see that here very soon. Microsoft Access comes with a bunch of wizards. Here's a query wizard. Here's a form wizard. Here's a report wizard that help guide you through building queries, forms, and reports. In this tutorial one, we're going to do very, very simple queries just to show you that they can be done and also show you that they get stored in the same file. So we're going to use the query wizard. Click on it. Query wizard comes up and says, what kind of query do you want? It's unit 1. We're doing a simple query. That's all you'll ever do in this class, for that matter. Now, a query lets us ask questions. But we don't have to include everything in the answer. Maybe I don't want the patient's ID, or maybe I don't want whether they were a walk-in or not. I only want certain fields. You can be selective about which fields are in your answer to your query. And in this example, we're supposed to include the visit ID, the visit date, and the reason. So the visit ID, the visit date, and the reason. Now, a bunch of arrows here that let you move things back and forth. You can click the visit ID and the arrow, and now it moves over there and it's removed from here. Piece of cake. Here's a power tip. I don't think this one was in the book. Next, I want the visit date. instead of click, click, which works fine, you can double click. And then I want the reason, double click, and it just moves it over in the order that you double click them. When you do your queries, particularly when you're doing the exams and the checkoffs and all that stuff, put them in the order they tell you. These arrows let you rearrange and move them back, so let's move them all back. And then get a little bit of practice. Let's move them all over. The double arrows move whatever's left. And then we can take out the ones we don't want. The patient ID and the walk-ins, take them out. You can also double click them over here. So this screen simply lets you pick which fields do you want to see in the answer to this query. Next. What title do you want for the query? The title means name. What name do you want for this? Once again, remember we name all our stuff without spaces. So I'm going to call this the visit list. The book would suggest that you take out the query and the space and the S and just call it visit list. Might be easier just to type it. Visit ID and the visit date and the reason. And it really doesn't matter, not at this stage. So then we called it visit list. And the next question, it says, do you want to open this and see the data, or do you want to modify the design that's beyond the scope of this chapter? So we just click finish. And at this point, notice we now have two tabs across the top. Visits, that's my table, the whole thing, and here's a visits list, that's my query. Notice in the navigation bar, we now have a list of tables and a list of queries. These are normally sorted by their type. All the queries together, all the tables together, all the forms together, etc. Here's my query. And really all it is this list with a few of the fields removed. You can't remove fields from a table without losing all the data. And I can close this now. I have visits, the table selected. Close it. Here's visit list. It has the stuff that I don't want hidden. You can actually edit data here. If we wanted to change some of the data, we can edit it and change it. Most queries, you narrow things down, but you can still change things. So I can come down here and change the spelling of influenza, or change this to severe influenza, or whatever I want to do. I can change stuff here. That's a query. In Unit 3, we're going to write more complex queries. Don't give me all the records. I only want the hypertension records from November that were female from Plover. I can ask all kinds of questions. And then, by the way, sort them by date. We didn't even sort these. That's how simple this query was. Very simple. You're just limiting the field list. The point is you can create questions and get answers that don't include all your data, and they're stored with your table. Go ahead and close the visit list. We're done. Now here's a key point when you're doing your homework assignment. You're going to create these simple forms. But when you create the simple form is created based on whatever you have selected over here. So if you accidentally select the query, and by the way, I can run that. It's called running the query. Ask the question. You double click it, and I get the answer. Same fields. And if I'd narrowed it down to all the hypertension patients from Plover, that's all that would be showing up. So once you've saved the query, you can ask the question over and over and over again. If I now create a report, it's going to be based on this visit list, just those 3 fields instead of all the fields. So when you're doing your forms and your reports, make sure your table is selected before you start creating it. Next, we're going to create a form. Forms are basically used to make data entry a little easier. Don't need to follow. I'm going to open up my visits table. If I had 17 fields here and 30,000 records, that's a lot of data on the screen, boggling my mind. A form gives me a way to look at that one record at a time, kind of like a web form. So let's create it. Make sure you have table visits selected. And then don't use the form wizard because it's got lots of questions that we don't need. You just say, give me a form. This first form button, poof, gives you a form using the current object, and there's all my information. Down at the bottom of the screen, now I'm only seeing one at a time. How do I go from one to the next? Using the navigation bars. This navigation bar at the bottom of the screen has a next button and a previous button and a first button and a last button. And you can even use, don't follow here, you can even use a star to create a new one. Then I have to press escape to get out of there because I really don't want it. And then go over here and I can navigate. You can change the data here, and it's a little easier on the eyes, a little easier to manage. Let's close it. When we close it, we need to save this form like anything else. When we use this query wizard, it asks us then, what do you want to call it? This one didn't do it. Do you want to save the changes to this visits thing, to the form visits? Yes. And then it'll give you a chance to name it. And we're supposed to call this visit data. So once again, I'm going to click on the end, take off the S and add data, no spaces. This is called title case. Every word is capitalized. If you name everything that way in Microsoft Access, you'll make some happy programmers and you'll do well on the test too. So that's a form. Lets you look at one record at a time. In Unit 4, we're going to create custom forms. We rearrange these, add some clip art to spruce it up a little bit, and actually mix data from two different places together and do all kinds of cool stuff. This is a basic one, and many people prefer to enter their data looking at it this way. Click on OK. And now it's listed under Forms, and I can double-click it anytime I want to and view it. I can double-click Visits. I can double-click Queries. Now I got tabs across the top, and I can bop around here, add one there, look at them here, look at them there, add one there, change things, move back and forth. Lots of tabs. Open at the same time and move back and forth quickly. Close them all. 1, 2, 3, all gone at once. Now remember, whenever you're creating reports, which is what we're doing next, and forms, select the table first. Otherwise, you're going to get a report based on that query. I believe you can even create reports based on a form, though I've never done it. So always select the table before you create your report. I'm going to create a report. Again, there's a wizard. Don't use it. Not in this unit. That's Unit 4. In this unit, just say, give me a basic report. Poof. There you go. Unfortunately, some of these boxes are kind of big and they're falling. Here's the dots that go vertically. You can guess that's the page margin. They don't fit on the page. And so even in this unit, they want you to move some of this stuff around a little bit. You can resize columns by simply touching the edge. That visit ID column is way too wide. So I'm going to drag it to the left so that the box is a lot smaller, but there's still plenty of room. And notice everybody else moves over. Magic. That's cool. Patient ID, way too big. Stretch. Everybody else moves over. Maybe I don't like my reason. Notice they're wrapping. I think I can drag it the other direction. Click on reason and stretch it to the right. Just make sure you don't fall off the page. And there, now they're all in single rows, and that looks even better. So you can resize these very easily. It's so easy they'd even let you do it in a simple report. And they'll ask you to do it in the assignments. But once again, I can see data, they're checked, etc. But the only thing I can't do here is edit data. I can look at it. They put a total down here for me. They put page numbers fell off. Okay. Grab it and move it. You can move stuff on your form as well. So just grab that page number and move it until the orange box is inside the page margin. If we really wanted to, I don't. We could go file, print. You can follow through, but never. I would say never print. If the assignment says print, skip it. Not for me. Print. If you do a quick print, you're done. Don't click that. Let's do a print preview instead. I recommend this in all programs. Do a print preview first. Look through it. That looks pretty good. Now I've got different page numbers down here at the bottom, and I can scroll around. There's page 2 of 3, so there must be another page. Page 3 of 3, and there's my totals, and I can see what it's going to look like. I think I can even zoom out and see more than a couple of pages at a time. All kinds of options. And then you can go print, but I don't recommend it. Down here at the bottom are different views, just like in Excel. Once we went to print preview, there's different views. I want to go back to report view, and that kind of gives me what I had before. Then let's close it. When we close it, it'll ask, do you want to save this? Yes. Visit details. Just follow what they tell you in the book. And now everything's over here. If you don't like the way these are arranged, you can change it. If you come up here, access, all access objects, you can drop this down and tell it that you want them sorted by object type. You want to see them all. You can hide stuff. Right now I'm only working with tables, hide everything else. I'm only working with queries, hide everything else. I recommend this option, object type, all objects, and then they're grouped by queries together, tables together. Very easy to understand. Now we haven't been doing too much messing around with this data. We didn't delete any records. We're going to learn how to do that in the next unit. We didn't create any forms. I created a table and deleted it. You didn't. If you add a bunch of objects, delete a bunch of objects, things, reports, queries, whatever, and you delete them, your database is all in a single file, and it can get a little cluttered. To unclutter it is very simple. You go to File on the menu. You can go ahead and follow. And on the very first Info tab is a Compact and Repair Your Database. If you ever open a database and it won't work, try repair. What the book recommends in every chapter, I'm not sure I buy this, is that after you're done working with your database, before you close it, compact and repair it. It basically goes through and finds all the junk that you deleted, all the records you deleted, the table ID, and permanently deletes them. Ooh, does that mean I could get them back? Not that I know of. They're just there taking up space. I don't know how to get them back. But they are taking up space until you do a compact and repair. As far as I know, there is no way for the test grading program to look at your database and say, oh, you didn't compact that. But if it tells you to do it, I do it. Now we can close this. And here's another thing to keep in the back of your minds. This is for everybody if you're working, take a break for a second. When you're done with Unit 1, do not delete this database, because we continue to build on it. In Unit 2, we'll add some more tables. In Unit 3, we'll add a bunch more queries. In Unit 4, we'll add, and so you keep using these databases over and over and over again, which means that you're going to be doing case number 1 through all of the access units. Because if I decide to change case problems on you, I have to give you all the rest of the data somehow. Because everything you do in Unit 1 is going to carry over to Unit 2, is going to carry over to Unit 3 and Unit 4. End of Unit 1. Questions?